Hi, this is Michael Benjamin Jacobson, and I'm an author, Matthew Robert Payne. I've written 55 books on Amazon. Suffer from bipolar disorder and schizophrenia, which makes the clinical term for what I've got is schizoaffective disorder, which is like I've got the best of bipolar and the best of schizophrenia. And if you think that's a good thing, well, it's very hard to live with. Um, my wife left me 27 years ago, and my life went into a little bit of darkness. And today, I've been, last week, my brother sent me a song by Billie Eilish, or I can't say her name properly. And she got on my radar this morning at 20 to 7 this morning. It's 3 o'clock now, but 20 to 7 this morning, I did a spiritual reading over her, and you can look that up under Billie Eilish spiritual reading, and you'll find that. And I'd watched enough interviews of her, seen a few of her songs, and did a spiritual reading over her, and then 4 hours later I did one over her brother, and I've just seen this song because someone spoke about it. Her brother spoke about it in an interview, and just read the lyrics, and so I thought I'd go through it point by point as a person who's lived for many years with the desire to kill myself. 4 times I've been on the way to kill myself, and Jesus has sent someone to stop me killing myself. And he said I've got such an important job to do in the world that even if I do kill myself, he's going to raise me from the dead. And so I pretty well believe him. I know someone, one day I was pushed so far that I said I was going to kill myself, and Jesus said, "Well, now for the bad news." And I said, "There is no bad news. I'll go to the Sydney Harbour Bridge and I'll jump off." And Jesus said, "Well, here's the bad news." And I said, "What bad news? I don't care who you send. I'll punch them all out. I'll knock them all out. Then I'll jump over the bridge." And there's something about falling into water, diving into water. It makes your mind think it's going to be a beautiful death. And so it was always my first choice for suicide. And Jesus said, even if you jump off, we're going to raise you from the dead, and you'll do what I tell you to do from a wheelchair. And then I suddenly thought, well, I'll shoot myself. I'll get a gun and I'll shoot myself. And he said, and if you shoot yourself, we'll bring you back from the dead, and you'll live with migraines for the rest of your life. And we know how you hate headaches. And so I thought to myself, well, this one will be harder. I'll ask to use someone's car and say I'll bring it home in the garage while they're at work, and I'll leave the keys in a letterbox, and I'll gas myself in the car. And Jesus said, and if you gas yourself in the car, you're gonna be raised back from the dead, and you'll live with stomach problems for the rest of your life, and you'll be vomiting all the time. And we know how you hate to vomit. And so Jesus stood over me and said, "Okay, we need you. You got to live." And since he told me that about 8 years ago, it's been very, very dark. And there really hasn't been 1 week in my life where I wanted to live, but I've got this threat over my life by a loving Jesus, but obviously needed. Got this threat over my life that if I kill myself, I'm going to come back and suffer worse. And I'd heard a story of someone jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge and surviving, and so I knew it was possible. The Golden Gate Bridge is a lot bigger bridge. It's got a very high success rate of jump off that and you're dead. And so when I heard this song, I knew golden meant the Golden Gate Bridge. It's the epitome of bridges to jump off. And of course, you don't have these sort of thoughts if you're not suicidal. But once you become suicidal, you think of the best way. I used to frequent a strip joint and brothel in King's Cross in our red light district in Sydney, and Jesus sent me in just to comfort the prostitutes, and I used to buy them chocolate and coffee, and 6 nights a week I used to just be their friend and talk to them. And this was a really hardcore place, and people had been killed there, and some of the prostitutes, as they nodded off to the heroin, they used to hit them with a cattle prod, and the girls were slaves, and it was a very evil place. And you know, life can be tough. You know, life can be really tough, and push you to extraordinary places. I used to visit that uh, strip club brothel 6 nights a week, and I used to walk home over the Harbour Bridge in Sydney every morning. I'd have a buffet breakfast, go to sleep, wake up at 3 o'clock, get my day together, and go into King's Cross at 8 o'clock at night. And I did that for about a year, just ministering and showing Jesus' love to those girls, and buying them coffee and chocolate. And I wrote a novel, and then I wrote a screenplay to the novel, and I had one of my characters jump off the Harbour Bridge for me. And so suicide has always been a theme in my life, and it's not often talked about. A lot of people talk about suicide. A lot of people speak a lot of garbage in suicide about the subject. The number one thing I hear from a big name so-called experts on suicide is, the people who do that are gutless. People who do that, are selfish. If I ever hear someone say that to me, depending on the level of respect I have for that person, I say, you think that's a coward. Why don't you kill yourself? And it takes a lot of courage to pull the pin on your life. I found out in that red light district brothel that a heroin overdose is even a more peaceful way of killing yourself. But 30% of the people that came into that strip joint came in for their first shot of heroin, and they came to a prostitute to teach them how to shoot up. And they came a couple of times to learn how to shoot up. And then once they were happy, then they were a heroin addict. And so I found out that was a peaceful way to go. So I'm not afraid of anyone killing themselves. Actually, when people kill themselves, I sort of feel happy for them. And that's really strange, but I messed up. I've lived 27 years with a mental illness, and 27 years wanting to die. And it's a subject that should be spoken about. It's a subject that should be on the radar. And I'm so happy. This is a song that's made me really happy. I just discovered it 30 minutes ago. I thought I'd make a video about it. So let's talk about suicide. Let's go through her song. So I'm going to go on to her lyrics here, and then we're going to have a look at this song. I had a dream, I got everything I wanted, not what you think. And if I'm being honest, it might have been a nightmare to anyone who might care. Now, I don't want to put myself into Billie's mind and say what she actually means here. I've heard her and her brother Phineas being interviewed, and she says that she likes her listeners to interpret things the way they want to interpret it, so she doesn't make a habit of explaining her dream, her songs to people, because everyone's got different understandings of the song. But so I thought I'd go through this with you line by line and explain it from my comprehension through my life. And I feel I know her a little bit. I did a spiritual reading for her, and I did a spiritual reading for Phineas, her brother, and I hope they get a copy of them. They're both 44 minutes, which was pretty miraculous. That Billie's was 4443, and Phineas was 4:10, and that's pretty amazing. And that really amazed me that they're both 44 minutes. Okay, I had a dream. I got everything I wanted, not what you think. And if I'm being honest, it might have been a nightmare to anyone who might care. Um, if I was going to put myself in this song, that's my biggest dream. Met Jesus hundreds of times in visions. I've met him 5 times in the flesh, where he grabbed a body from heaven and came down. I've met him 5 times in the flesh within friends of mine, where I've been talking to a homeless person that I know, and suddenly Jesus is talking through him. I can tell you when you meet him through a friend, and your friend goes into a trance and starts speaking, it's a lot easier to meet him, but even it's a lot easier to converse with him. I'll give you a warning: as soon as I turn the video on, I start to scratch and itch, and Billie says that she's got this illness, Tourette's, that makes her tick, and I feel especially a little bit like her because as soon as I turn a video camera on, I start getting itchy. I had a dream I'd get everything I wanted, not what you think. And if I'm being honest, it might have been a nightmare to anyone who cared. Every time I've seen Jesus in the vision, he's in my corner now. I wish I could just grab his hand and him take me to heaven. I used to offer on my website, I used to offer people trips to heaven, and I'd be able to talk to them on Skype and talk them into a vision, get them into heaven, show them around heaven, and take them on a tour. And I used to do that for $50 American. And mainly the charge was it's so much of a hassle to hook up Skype and arrange Skype and get people get people booked. And, I spent a lot of time, at least 20 minutes, half an hour for every person arranging the actual thing, because I'm in Australia, most people in America. And, I stopped going to heaven because it's so wonderful up there. The feeling, the peace, the joy in heaven is just out of this world. And used to be such a bang shock to my system coming back to earth that I don't care. Someone can pay me $500, I won't take them to heaven. It just makes me weep coming back. And there's a lot of testimonies if you look near death experiences, and you look into Christian experiences and all sorts of books about people who meet Jesus. So many of them don't want to come back. When they're dead, they don't want to come back, and Jesus sends them back for a certain reason, or the light or God sends them back because they've got to fulfill the rest of their life, but they don't want to come back. So when I go to heaven, I used to go to heaven and take people. I don't consciously go there now. From time to time, Jesus talks me into coming to heaven, but I certainly won't do it for other people. It doesn't matter if you pay. Well, you have to pay me about $1,000 for me to do it, because it just hurts me so much. And I heard Billie getting interviewed, and she said, horses are about the only thing that bring her peace and joy. And, I'd take Billie to heaven. I'd love her to experience the peace and joy of heaven. And then, if she came back and killed herself, I'd be happy. At least she knew Jesus, and she'd gone to paradise. There was a song. There's not many songs. I really haven't been listening to much music since my wife left. The radio. You listen to the radio about love songs, it just breaks your heart, especially when you lose someone you lost. But there was a band, an Australian band. And they come from a country town in Australia called Tamworth, which is our country music capital of Australia. And there's a road in Tamworth called Paradise Road, one of the main roads in Tamworth. But I think the band was the Choir Boys, and one of the lyrics in the song that says, "You don't need anyone when you run to paradise," and You don't need anyone. You don't need anyone. You don't need anyone when you run to paradise, or something like that. And, that had a double meaning for the Tamworth people. They knew here Paradise Road was a place in Tamworth. But to someone suicidal, know exactly what that is taking a hot shot to heaven. And, there's another song by The Cause, do a cover of it, and I forget the name of the song, but Hold On, I think. And The Cause do a song, but just over the years, I must admit I haven't been listening to a lot of music, like I said, but songs about suicide become my very favourite songs. And I know I'm going on, but there's only about there's not one person on earth I'd stay for. If I had a choice, if Jesus there just grabbed my hand and said, "Let's go," I'd be off. I've got a looking around there, but I've got a playlist where I've interviewed John Lennon, and it's like a 30-hour interview, and there's about 10 hours to go. It'll be like 1,600 page, 7-volume set, which I've been told by prophets and angels and Jesus himself, that'll be a New York Times bestseller, and it'd be bigger than Harry Potter, I've been told. Even with that, even being someone who's going to do that and have such an impact, I couldn't care less. If Jesus said, "Let's go," I'd go right now. And my heart just goes out to her. She's just released this recently after an EP and an album, and it might have been a nightmare to anyone who might care. And what you find is when you're suicidal, when you're having constant thoughts of suicide, you're thinking about the people that you're going to break their heart when you leave. And I've done some forensic study. I wrote a couple of serial killers, and I studied a little bit of forensic writing and forensic science. And it's not always the case where police work out it was suicide, but and one way to fake a suicide is to get someone to write something that sounds suicidal before you kill them. But they believe it's suicide when it's a note. And one day I was on the way to kill myself, and I was walking out of my house, and a famous singer from a band called In Excess killed himself, and the news came on the radio saying In Excess singer suspected suicide, just died. And we bring reports and do further research. And I was just walking out the door with an envelope with the letter that I was going to post to my parents. Then I was going to catch a taxi to a bridge in Brisbane, Australia. I was going to jump off, and I was 2 feet from the front door when that played on the radio that was in my house. And I swore, said the F word, and said, "I'm going to stay around and see what the hypocrites say about this." And, they couldn't have such a star, die of that. So all these people, do drug overdoses and don't actually suicide. So when you're thinking of killing yourself, when you're doing some serious thinking about doing that, you think about the friends and the people you're going to leave behind. And that's why she said it might be a nightmare to anyone who might care. Well, that's how I understand it. I'm not putting words in the mouth. Thought I could fly, so I stepped off the gold, and nobody cried, nobody even noticed. And I when I was doing the interview for John Lennon, I was instructed by John, I was instructed by Jesus and the Holy Spirit to listen to a 32-hour audiobook. And my time is very valuable to me, and 32 hours was the longest audiobook I'd ever attempted. But they said I'd get a better understanding of John, if I listened to it. So I was listening to it as I was doing the interview. And, he went to this therapist, and the therapist, was one of the best in America. And the therapist, after he spent a year with John, said that in all his life of therapy, he'd never met anyone in so much pain. And after a year, the therapist said, "I've got no more time for you. You need to write out your pain. You need to do some cathartic writing, which is writing out your pain, writing out your story and bleeding on paper." And so all that cathartic songs that John wrote were after the Beatles, all his singles. And some of his singles are real hits. But he wrote this song to Yoko, and he said, no one understands me. No one sees me. No one understands me but you. What do you want? And, that's very sad, because when he'd been told by a psychiatrist to write out these cathartic songs, that was his truth. And his truth was no one knew him like Yoko. No one could see him. And I've got probably one friend in the world called Mary Gibson who sees me. And I've written 55 books, 55 Christian books. I poured my heart out in my books, and no one sees me. No one understands me. And one day after I'd listened to the John Lennon interview, and I sort of only break when I'm in front of my computer. I'm in the zone. I can be in front of my computer for 36 hours straight. And I got up from my computer to go to the toilet, have a coffee. And if you watch any of my really long videos, you'll see I have toilet breaks and coffee breaks and stuff in the middle of a video, because I don't know how to edit. And I was walking out. I talked to John. I said, "John, did you go through all that suffering so that I could relate to you, so I could be a good channel of your voice?" And he said, "What do you think?" And I think, that's a terrible life for you to go through to prepare you for this message, And he says, "Well, you can understand, mate." And, it's so sad. It's so sad that the whole world can think they know you, and they can bring out a song like this. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. The girl's on top of the world. She wants to kill herself. And it's just a dream, it's just a dream. But it was, I had a dream. I got everything I wanted, not what you think. And if I'm being honest, it might have been a nightmare to anyone who cares, Who cares? I know a mum cares. I know a brother cares. Thought I could fly, so I stopped off the Golden Gate Bridge. Nobody cried. Nobody even noticed. I saw them standing right there, kind of thought they might care. Had a dream, I got everything I wanted, but when I wake up, I see you with me. Now she's talking about a brother, Phineas, and you say, as long as I'm here, no one can hurt you. Don't want to lie here, but you can learn to. If I could change the way that you see yourself, you wouldn't wonder why you're here. They don't deserve you. In the midst of doing this spiritual reading over Billie and her brother, Jesus had 10 points of things he liked in Billie and 10 points that he liked in Phineas. And I think it was Phineas's 9th point where Jesus said, you need to bring the joy to Billie. You need to, Billie in an interview said that she doesn't often able to go out in public now because it's dangerous and people mob her. And one day she got out and she was able to lie on some grass for 10 minutes. And in the midst of her prophecy, Jesus was saying, I want to take you by a stream and let you lay down by the grass. And, either said it to Billie or said it to Phineas that you need to be that grass for her. You need to, in in a green room or in a hotel room, or when you're alone with Billy, you need to be that brook, and you need to be that water, and you need to be that, bring the grass and let her relax, and you need to bring the joy to her. You need to keep her up. You need to hold her up and be the joy. And, I said this, at 7 o'clock, it's 3:33 now. I sort of think that's a pretty amazing time for me to look at the clock. I said this at 20 to 7, which is, a long time. It's going to be 20 to 4 soon. So 7, 5, 8 hours ago. I said it 8 hours ago. Billy's and then Phineas's an hour or two ago, and I didn't know at all that that he was so needed in her life. And I just found that out as Jesus spoke through me, and here he is. And you say, as long as I'm here, no one can hurt you. Don't want to lie here, but you can learn to. If you could change the way you see yourself, you wouldn't wonder why you're here. They don't deserve you. It's amazing. I thought, at the peak, she has 100 million people listen to a music video, 200 million people. But at my peak, I had 2,300 people download my books in a month. And you'd think with 2,300 people that you'd have more than a couple of friends, and I can't imagine how means of times worse it is for someone to have all these fans and be the biggest hit in her life, but she has a dream where she kills herself, and it's exactly what she wanted, and I heard Billy say that she's scared, she fears for her life, and I heard Jesus say to Phineas that tell Billy from me that you and Billy are important to the future of the world, and no one's going to kill you. And the problem with Illuminati and people who run the world, who run the music industry, problem is they kill people. They stand over people and they kill people. Well, they tried to kill me when I started doing my John Lennon book, and they failed, and you can't touch me. And I know other people that can't be touched, and so they can send headaches and painful teeth and physical sort of stuff at me through their witchcraft, but they can't get me, can't physically get me. And so Jesus wanted to reassure her that she's going to keep on living, but no one can hurt you. As long as I'm here, no one can hurt you. And he's speaking to her fears that she's in danger. And she goes on, I tried to scream, but my head was underwater. They called me weak, like I'm not just somebody's daughter. It's amazing in dreams when it's serious, you can't scream, you're about to die. I died once, like a truck hit me, and I woke myself up a couple of times when I was about to die in a dream. And I've even had masons and witches, Masonic people, astral travel into my house and try and kill me. And Jesus had to forewarn me that they were coming, and he told me I had to keep my eyes closed or they would have killed me. And I went through the whole ordeal of what they did to me, and I kept my eyes closed. And I don't think they could believe that I kept my eyes closed. So they left, and 30 seconds later, the head of them came back to see if I was awake, and he would have had the smarts to be able to kill me, apparently, if I had woken up. And, so in your dreams, you try and scream at stuff, and it doesn't work or whatever. And so she's in the midst of this drowning, and, they call you weak, all the experts on suicide, all the so-called experts who haven't lived with it for years, they all call you gutless and a loser and selfish. Rest in peace. Bring that virus, bring bring the Chinese virus, I'll shoot it up my vein and I'll die. That's an honourable way of dying. But you know, oh, gee, I walked out and a Chinese guy sneezed on me, and now I've got the coronavirus and I'm dead. That's fine. But people find out you suicided, and you know, suddenly you're selfish. You know, I don't know. I don't know about you. I'm talking to the people who are suicidal. I don't know about you. You don't even have to have a Christian faith like me, but it makes it harder when, well, if you had a Catholic faith, you think that's a cardinal sin or whatever, and you can't be forgiven. But believe me, I've talked to a few people who knew Jesus and had a faith, and they suicided and were sent back, but they definitely met Jesus in the interim. So it makes it harder because I've been to paradise, I've been to heaven. It's so hard to come back. Makes it harder to stay alive when you're suicidal, when you know you're going to heaven. And I you know, I lost my train of thought there. I've been up for close to 30 hours. But you know, all the experts, they all call you gutless and hopeless and selfish. And, you know, yeah, when you go to a gravesite, you don't even have to be a Christian. It's got rest in peace, rest in peace, rest in peace, rest in peace, rest in peace. Now, that mightn't be on your radar, you know, if you decide that you're going to buy a VW, or you're going to buy a Mini Cooper S, or you're going to buy a BMW 7 Series Blue. As soon as you decide you want to set BMW 7 Series Blue, you start seeing them everywhere. As soon as you want to get a Mini Cooper S Red, you start seeing them everywhere. But when it's on your radar, you start seeing it all the time. Well, you may have never had rest in peace on your radar, but believe me, when you've seen it 10,000 times, it really is attractive. And you don't need a faith. They're just beautiful words. Rest in peace. When you're mentally ill, when you suffer with bipolar, you suffer with clinical depression, which sounds like Billy does. You know, when you suffer with depression, resting in peace sounds really, really good. You know, and you know, all the so-called experts on suicide, they don't know shit. And you know, sorry if that offends you, but they don't know shit. What I love about Billie is she drops the F word all the time in interviews. I just love that, you know. People who can't be honest can't drop that word in an interview. Christians certainly can't drop that word unless you get them in a private room and get them pretty heated up before they'll drop it. You know, but you know, people are so used to hiding themselves and hiding. Oh, it's not really polite to say that word. And she drops it all the time. I just love that. And so they call you weak, killing yourself. And, you know, I feel like saying to all of you people who think you know about suicide, kill yourself. Go on, work out how you do it. First of all, it's hard to work out how to do it and be successful. Women are a lot more unsuccessful than men. The reason is not because probably they don't want to kill themselves, but men are more proactive. You know, they know a bullet through the head is going to do it. A bullet through the mouth is going to do it. So many police end their lives with a gun in their mouth, you know. You know, it's a big thing. So many veterans do it. So many police do it. I had a homeless guy in my house for a year that I put up in my house, and he was a American vet, and he told me 50% of homeless people in America are vets, and that's disgusting. That's disgusting. They've served your country, and now they're homeless, and you walk past them, you spit on them, and you say, "Get a job, you bum." And you know, they already served your country. You know, that's why, you know, I know Billie, if you ever watch this, I know you and Phineas, your brother, aren't really into Trump, but that's why Trump's so into veterans. He loves these guys that served the country. So yeah, all the experts. Yeah, there's a lot of experts. And only 2 times in my life have I ever heard someone speak truth on suicide. So-called experts on suicide. I've only 2 times. in 27 years since I've been suicidal. I've only heard 2 experts speak the truth on suicide. And she's saying, they called me weak like I'm not somebody's daughter. Like, that's the label you get for killing yourself. You're gutless. You're a coward. I wish all the cowards would just go and kill themselves. Could have been a nightmare, but it felt like they were right there, and it feels like yesterday was a year ago, but I don't want to let anybody know because everybody wants something from me now, and I don't want to let them down. Here's the thing, 27 years ago when my wife left me, I was in the shower, and, I was thinking I'd lost my wife, I'd lost my child, I'd lost my reason for living, I'd lost my purpose, all the joy left my life. I was in the shower, and I just had this thought, I'll kill myself. That's the answer. And I won't have to suffer. I'll just kill myself. And my mum, as far as I know, had only heard from Jesus 4 times in her life. Up to that point, I don't think she maybe heard of Jesus once. I've been talking to Jesus since I was an 8-year-old boy, but my mum, a lot of Christians have never heard from Jesus. They call that mental illness. The girl on The View said, it's all right to talk to Jesus, but if he talks back, you're mentally ill. And, that's that acceptance. Most people think Jesus can't talk to a person, and been talking to me all my life, but my mum had only heard from him once, or maybe not even once. And suddenly she was outside when I made the decision to kill myself, and my mum freaked out, and she said, to my younger brother, go in and see Matthew, something's seriously wrong. She heard from a divine source. And my brother busted into the shower, and had homosexual sort of stuff in my life past, and I was stepping out of the shower, I was naked, and I got angry at my brother, and I said, what are you doing coming in here? And he said, I've got to do my hair. And he said, are you all right? And I said, I've had enough. And he took from I've had enough to his next words were, I can understand that you want to kill yourself. And didn't know where that came from. And he said, I can understand you don't want to live for you. You've lost your wife and you've lost your child. And I picked on you. Your older brother picked on you. Your father's been a jerk. I can understand you don't want to live for your family. You don't want to live for your wife. You don't want to live for your child. And he worked on a drug rehabilitation farm, like a rehab. And it was a year program for people, or as long as they needed, sometimes 14 months. And then they'd leave and they'd be off to heroin and or off to drink or whatever. And he started, he got really emotional. He said, it's okay if you go ahead, Matthew. I've worked with mental health, and I'm a professional. I've done my studies. I'll be able to explain it to mum and dad and to your sisters and your brother, and I'll be explained to your wife and your child. I'll be able to explain what position you're in and that you're suicidal. And he started to cry, and he said, but I've sent 2 guys away thinking they were fine, and within a week they'd overdosed, and they didn't kill themselves, man. They didn't do a shot that was too much for them. They're professionals. They know their tolerance has gone down. They wouldn't overdose. But they overdosed because they suicided. They just couldn't live on the outside without heroin, so they just took a hot shot and killed themselves. And he said, I thought they were right. I let them go. I signed the papers and I let them go. He said, but I'm looking at my brother now and he wants to kill himself. And so I've got to give him a reason to live. And he said, your dad was a jerk. Your dad was a violent jerk, and your brother beat you up, and I picked on you. You really had no friends. You lost your wife. You lost your kid. You've been sexually abused. You've been through homosexuality. You've got no friends. You got no reason to live, mate. But I can tell you, I was sitting with these guys trying to counsel them at the rehab, and they say to me, "What would you know? You've never been raped. You've never been molested. You've never had an addiction. Who do you think you are with some degree telling me how I should feel? You've never been here. You don't understand me." And I didn't. And two of them left and they killed themselves. But he says, "Matthew, if you could just get up from here, if you could just get up, mate, you wouldn't have to tell them how you made it, mate. You just have to tell them you got up. And you could affect so many thousands of people just telling them that you lived and you got through it." He said, "So if you can't live for mum or dad or for your wife or your child or your sisters and your brothers and mum and dad's friends, and we all love you, but if you can't get up, you get up for them and you tell your story." And that's 27 years ago, and I'm still in a lot of pain. And I really wish I wasn't living. And it can be so hard, especially more hard when thousands of people know you, but no one knows you. So I hope I've convinced you, Jesus has kept me up for 40 hours to get me really emotional, ready for this video. Because you feel that you owe people, You don't want to let people down. She's become famous because everybody wants something from me now, That'd be so terrible. All my life, because I'm a prophet and because I can tell the future, because I can tell people about their life and I can do a prophecy over Billie or her brother and be so accurate and so fantastic. So many people come at me because they want something. But it must be ramped up by 100,000 for her. And suicide, it should be talked about more often. I had a dream I got everything I wanted, but when I woke up, I see you with me, and you say, as long as I'm here, no one can hurt you. Don't want to lie here, but you can learn to. If I could change the way you see yourself, you wouldn't wonder why you're here. They don't deserve you. If I knew it then, would I do it again? Would I do it again? Now, it's a funny transition. She had a dream as she jumped off the bridge and killed herself. Now she's saying, would I do it again? So was the dream a dream? Or was the dream her wish? The dream was a wish because she had a dream and she got everything she wanted. So in the dream, she did suicide. And if I knew it all then, would I do it again? Would I do it again? If they knew that what they said would go straight to my head, what would they say instead? I'll tell you something you might not be comfortable in hearing. And Billie's are too young for this, and her brother's too young for this. But when Princess Diana died, the whole world went in shockwaves. And there was such a big outpouring of grief all around the world. Do you know why there was such grief? It wasn't just because it was Princess Diana. It was guilt. The paparazzi chased her into that tunnel, and the people of the world killed her with their voracious appetite for everything, Diana. You know, magazines used to sell 30 to 50%, I don't know the quote, but 30 to 50% more covers of the magazine went off the shelf when Diana was on the front. Doesn't matter the BS that they write in there with the picture, like she's breaking up or she's got a new boyfriend or whatever. They get the picture and they write up some fiction to go with the picture. Doesn't matter. She was selling. She was selling. Just like Trump. And I know, if Billy, if you ever watch this, you don't like Trump and your brother doesn't like Trump, but just like Trump has just lit up the media, all the earning rates have just gone through the roof since Trump's been in. But the world put on this fake mourning because it was guilt. This is how people feel around suicide, you know. If you caused, if you're hating comments that you write to Billie killed her, would you change the way you write? You know, if you knew that your hateful comments were making her feel suicidal and want to die, would you stop being jerks? You know, it must be so terrible copying so much hate. I have people write bad reviews on my YouTubes, and I have people write bad reviews of my books, and people who really want to write a bad review go to a lot of work to write a bad review on Amazon. And I can't take the Amazon reviews down. They wreck the sales of some of the books. But it's like whatever I go through, it's like 100,000 times bigger for, you know, 1 million times bigger for Billie. You know, suicide should be talked about more, you know. It should be talked about. There's a lot of people killing themselves. There's a lot of people, especially youth, are killing themselves. And it's just not talked about enough. You know, this is, You All Like All the Other Songs is my favourite song of hers. It's an amazing film clip, but hasn't got her jumping off the bridge. It's got her and her brother driving a car into the water and drowning. And drowning together, holding hands as they go down in the water. It's just amazing. I sort of look at the side here. It's like a nervous tick that, you know, I can't handle looking into the camera. I hope this has touched you. You know, I hope this is, you know, if you're a fan of Billie, I hope that I hope this brings some light to her song. And I'm definitely not saying this is what she meant. This is my interpretation of her lyrics and a lot of my life in it. But you know, what are you doing to this girl? Who are you? What are you writing this hate for? Why is she feeling all this pressure? Why can't she just tap out? What's wrong with tapping out? See, this big Christian, you know, ethos that says it's so bad to kill yourself. I tell you what, people who think they're experts on suicide have never been suicidal. Yeah. And so I hope that this has been an education. I don't know what the title of it's going to be, but I hope as you watch this, it was a lesson to you. I know that there's a reason that I've been up for, you know, 30 hours now, because when I'm bipolar, when I'm in mania or high, which you do get when you stay up all night, it accentuates any feeling. So as I'm feeling the sadness, the tears really did come out and the emotions really come out. And it's about time. I'm very proud of this video and I'm very happy with what I said, because they're real tears and there's a real desire to go. It's a real desire. And you're looking into the eyes of someone who prefer not to be here. And it's really brave. It's really brave to stay. And every day that you've got Billie thank it a good one, but don't think that you know her. Don't think that you know her. The famous brought this on even more powerfully, and and all you haters, yeah, yeah, you'll be dealt with in the next life. I hope this has encouraged you, and maybe not encouraged you, but I hope that you people who are suicidal, that live with depression, that this has touched you, and brought some understanding to you that you're not alone. You're not alone, guys. And my website is here, and you can find my email. If you see this and this video touched you, write a comment, and I'd love to see your comment. And if you know Billie, tell her that there's a spiritual reading for her done by me, and one for her brother too. So pass that on to her. Pass it on to her. Let her know somehow. I don't know how to get in contact. I just did what God told me to do and did the spiritual reading. So I hope this has been informative to the people who know me. I've been threatened by Jesus, and I can't kill myself. So, there's no reason to be calling mental health. I just simply can't kill myself. And, Hillary Clinton has proven I can't be killed. So it looks like you got me until the John Lennon book comes out, and I start walking the road of a place where I'm not crying like a baby all the time. God bless you, and I'd love to hear your thumbs up and your comments.